You don't owe your peace to anyone who thrives in chaos. You don't need to stay loyal to pain just because it's familiar. And you are not here to fix people who won't fix themselves. This video isn't about hate, it's about clarity. It's not about judging others, it's about protecting your path. Because if you're serious about growing, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then you've got to stop watering dead plants. This is Deep Stoic Minds, where Stoic wisdom meets peace of mind. We combine ancient philosophy with modern truth to help you grow quietly, reflect deeply, and move forward calmly. In this video, I'm going to share with you why staying away from toxic people is not selfish. It's necessary, and how focusing on your own growth day by day is the most stoic thing you can do. You'll hear timeless advice from Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, but more importantly, you'll get calm, clear, practical truth. One chapter at a time. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because this isn't just motivation, it's a reminder of the person you're becoming. Let's begin. The silent poison. What toxic people do to your mind. You might not feel it at first. Toxic people don't always show up loud. Sometimes they come with a smile, with words that sound like care, but cut like a blade. They'll joke at your expense, criticize you in the name of helping, use your kindness as a leash, and the worst part? They drain your energy, quietly. Stoic truth. You become what you allow. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." Now ask yourself, what do you think about after spending time with this person? Do you feel lighter or heavier, more clear or more confused? Do you feel seen or subtly made smaller? Toxic people distort your thinking over time. They don't attack you directly. They mess with your perspective. They make you question yourself. They feed you guilt. They keep you around by making you feel like you owe them something. Your attention, your time, your silence. But in Stoicism, there's a rule. You don't give power to what you don't control. And you definitely don't hand your mind over to someone who disrespects your peace. The slow leak you didn't notice. Let's talk straight. Not every storm is loud. Sometimes it's just constant interruption, subtle discouragement, passive-aggressive jabs, pressure to stay the same so you don't make them feel bad. And little by little your confidence erodes. You don't trust your decisions as much. You stop sharing your wins because you don't want to deal with sarcasm. You dull your own light. And you start living in reaction instead of intention. Epictetus warned, if a man is going down a wrong path, he doesn't need motivation to speed up. He needs clarity to change direction. So here's your clarity. If someone consistently makes you feel worse, not better, that's not growth. That's a cage. Why they target you? Let's go deeper. You're probably a kind person. You give people chances. You believe in healing. You see the best in others. But toxic people aren't looking for understanding, and they're looking for control. They're attracted to empathy because it's easier to manipulate. They get to play the victim and the villain. They keep you explaining yourself, walking on eggshells, doubting your worth. That's not love. That's emotional warfare. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, stay with people who drain you for the sake of being nice. He said, mutual growth, not charity, not obligation, not fear. But what if it's family? Let's not pretend this is always easy. Sometimes the toxic person is a parent, a sibling, a childhood friend. You don't need to cut them out with hate, but you must create space with wisdom. Detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You can love someone and still say, I won't let you make me small. You can forgive someone and still say, I'm not available for your chaos anymore. Marcus Aurelius said, when someone wrongs you, consider what kind of person they are, and choose not to imitate them. So don't fight fire with fire. Don't try to change them. Just walk your path. Calm, unbothered, free. Your energy is sacred. Imagine waking up with peace. You open your eyes and your first thought isn't dread. You're not bracing for the next drama. You're not replaying last night's argument. You're focused, you're light. That's the power of removing the wrong voices from your life. Because your energy, your attention, Your focus is currency, and you've been investing it in people who give no return. The Stoics didn't react to every insult. They didn't argue for approval. They guarded their mind like a fortress, because they knew your inner peace is your responsibility. Practice. Mental checkpoint. Next time you leave a conversation, ask yourself, did I feel heard? Did I feel respected? Did I shrink myself? If the answers are no, then stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop hoping they'll change. Start protecting your space. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching a video. You're choosing growth, you're choosing peace. So do yourself a favor, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started. The next chapter is about how to build calm boundaries the Stoic way. Don't miss it. The power of distance, Stoic detachment and boundaries. You don't have to respond to every comment, you don't have to explain yourself every time. And no, you're not a bad person for pulling away from people who drain your spirit. The truth is, peace requires distance. And in a world that pressures you to keep the peace by pleasing others, the Stoic path says something different. Protect your mind like a fortress. In this chapter, we talk about detachment, not coldness, not avoidance, but the kind of inner discipline that allows you to say, I control what enters my space. I decide what I give my energy to. I protect my focus like my future depends on it. Because it does. Welcome back to Deep Stoic Minds. Let's talk about boundaries, the Stoic way. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you choose to close. Let's get one thing straight. Setting boundaries isn't pushing people away. It's choosing what kind of energy gets to come close. The Stoics practiced detachment not because they didn't care, but because they cared deeply about their peace. Epictetus said, keep your will in harmony with nature, but don't surrender your mind to what's outside your control. That includes people, especially the ones who talk over your truth, guilt you for growing, demand access to your life but never earn it. What detachment really looks like. A detached mind doesn't mean you shut down. It means you don't get pulled into chaos that doesn't belong to you. Here's what Stoic detachment looks like in daily life. You don't respond right away just to please someone. You don't argue just to be right. You don't keep toxic people in your life just to avoid awkward silence. It's a quiet power. Not loud, not defensive, not angry. Just calm refusal. Just non-response. Just peace. When you create space, you find yourself. When you stop managing everyone else's emotions, you start managing your own future. You see what's been buried under the noise. You get clarity. You have time to think, write, rest. You realize you were never too sensitive. You were just overstimulated. Marcus Aurelius journaled daily, not for anyone else but for himself. He wrote, withdraw into yourself, especially when you are forced to be around others. He didn't say cut them all off. He said return to yourself, because the strongest people aren't the ones who react. They're the ones who pause, reflect, respond, if needed. The most powerful word, no. Let's not sugarcoat it. Saying no can be hard, especially when you've been trained to please others to avoid conflict. Say yes to keep the peace. Apologize for having needs. But here's what Stoicism teaches. You are not here to be used. You are here to live according to reason, nature, and peace of mind. And if that peace means you have to disappoint someone, so be it. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because saying no isn't selfish, it's mature, it's spiritual hygiene. It's self-respect in action. You train the world how to treat you. Let's go deeper. The boundaries you don't set will turn into the pain you silently carry. Every time you say yes when you meant no, keep quiet when your soul is screaming, allow disrespect because you're scared of losing someone, you teach the world, my peace is negotiable, but you deserve better. Let your boundaries speak quietly but firmly. You don't get to raise your voice at me. You don't get to demand my time. You don't get to distract me from who I'm becoming. Stay with me. If any part of this hits, pause for a second. Breathe. You're not broken for wanting space. You're not wrong for being tired of chaos. And you're definitely not selfish for needing peace. You're healing, you're growing. You're creating a life where peace isn't a vacation, it's your default. Stick around, because next we'll talk about what actually happens when you remove toxicity and walk alone for a while. And trust me, it's powerful. How to set boundaries like a Stoic. Real examples. Here are a few Stoic-style practices for setting boundaries, calmly and clearly. 1. Create quiet time daily. Make space for silence each morning. Even 10 minutes of journaling can help you spot emotional clutter before it builds. Ask, what energy am I allowing into my day that doesn't belong? 2. Have one go-to boundary phrase. Prepare a simple, non-emotional line you can use when people cross the line. Examples, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. Let's talk when it feels more respectful. 3. Limit access, not love. You can still love people from a distance. You're not punishing them, you're protecting your inner life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. It's not about them, it's about what you allow in. When you stop explaining yourself, here's the shift no one talks about. When you set boundaries, people might say, you've changed. You're cold now. You're selfish. But in reality, you've just stopped performing. You've stopped being available 24/7, saying yes to fake support, playing the role of emotional dumpster. That's not distance, that's healing. And when you stop explaining yourself to those who never listen, you gain the clarity to hear your own voice again. How Stoics respond to manipulation. Here's how a Stoic mind deals with guilt tripping, with silence. You don't argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you. You just observe, protect your energy, and stay committed to your path. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Let them watch you grow from afar, no bitterness, just boundaries. The deepest boundary is emotional detachment. You know what real peace feels like? When you realize you don't need to change them. You don't need them to apologize. You don't need closure because you've already closed the door. That's Stoic detachment. You don't hate. You don't cling. You just release. And that's when you step into power. In summary, let's remember what we've covered. Toxic people don't need access to your life to keep controlling it. Boundaries are your filter. Saying no is self-respect, not rudeness. Detachment isn't cruel. It's wise. You don't need to be understood, just at peace. Peace is built in quiet decisions, not loud arguments. Tonight, journal this. Where in my life am I available to the wrong people and unavailable to my own growth? Answer it honestly. That's your starting point. If this message resonates with you, and you're not alone, thousands of people are waking up to the need for peace over drama, growth over guilt, and purpose over people-pleasing. Subscribe to Deep Stoic Minds and stay close. In the next chapter, we'll dive into what happens when you finally create distance and how real growth begins. You won't want to miss it. What happens when you let go? Real growth begins. Some people leave, some connections fade, some chapters end, and what's left behind is silence. But listen closely. That silence, that's not emptiness. That's the space where you finally start to grow. The Stoics knew something we often forget. You can't become who you're meant to be while staying chained to who you used to tolerate. Welcome back to Deep Stoic Minds. In this chapter, we're diving deep into what actually happens, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. When you remove toxic people from your life, you don't just lose chaos, you gain clarity. Let's walk this path together. Growth begins now. Detachment isn't an ending, it's a beginning. So here's what happens when you finally let go. The noise dies down. Your mind feels lighter. Your body isn't in fight or flight all the time. You can sit with yourself, and it doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like peace. You're not constantly defending your energy. You're not waiting for the next guilt trip. You're not second-guessing every word, text, or silence. And that shift, that's real freedom. Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Toxic people? They lie beyond your control. Let go. Clarity kicks in. Once the emotional fog clears, your mind becomes sharper. You start to notice who truly supports you, what you actually want, where you've been settling. Without the constant chaos, your nervous system begins to heal. You start sleeping better, thinking clearer, dreaming again. You start to build a life and not react to one. That's when you realize, it wasn't me. It was the environment. It wasn't weakness. It was overstimulation. It wasn't that I didn't know who I was just too busy defending myself. If you're watching this and you've recently pulled away from someone, maybe a friend, a partner, a family member, and now you're second-guessing everything, wondering, was it too harsh? Did I overreact? Maybe I could have handled it better. Let me tell you something. Growth is uncomfortable. Healing is awkward. And peace sometimes feels like guilt at first. But stay with it, because what's on the other side is you. Real growth looks like this. People think growth means hustle, gym selfies, and reading 10 books a month. That's fine. But real growth often looks like saying no and not explaining why. Enjoying your own company for once. Catching yourself before you spiral. Doing nothing. Without guilt, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Growth is about integrity. And when you remove toxic energy from your life, your values become clearer, your intuition gets louder, your path becomes yours again. Growth is quiet, but it's loud inside. One of the most surprising things about letting go is how quiet your life becomes. At first it's weird, you're not used to no drama, no passive aggression, no emotional roller coasters. But over time, that quiet turns into something else, stability. And that stability, that's the foundation where you build confidence, focus, vision, purpose, and most of all, self-respect. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." And if they don't improve you, you already know what to do. You realize you don't need everyone. One of the deepest mindset shifts during this phase is this: I don't need everyone to understand me, like me, or approve of me. You realize approval is a prison. Over-explaining is exhausting. Pleasing others is a moving target you'll never hit. So instead, you return to self. You start building not to impress, but to align. You make moves not for applause, but for inner congruence. And it feels unshakable. You stop chasing what doesn't feed you. Let's be honest. Sometimes we chase people because we're afraid to be alone. We confuse attention with affection. We think rejection means we're not enough. But when you grow, you stop begging people to treat you right. You stop sending second texts. You stop defending your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you redirect that energy inward. You journal, you meditate, you get honest, and you realize the love I was begging for, I needed to give to myself first. Growth is circular, not linear. One thing to remember on this path: healing and growth are not linear. Some days you'll feel like a stoic monk. Other days you'll want to text that one person who broke you. Some nights will feel heavy, lonely, confusing. But that's okay. Growth is a cycle. You're not backtracking, you're spiraling upward. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that again. Emotional sobriety. Here's a term not often used, but powerful. Emotional sobriety. It means you're no longer addicted to validation. You're not reactive to every emotional hit. You choose how you feel. You don't wait for others to choose it for you. When you cut ties with toxic people, emotional sobriety kicks in. You stop depending on others for peace. You stop waiting for apologies to move on. You stop being afraid of being the bad guy just because you chose yourself. Tonight, ask yourself, what is something I thought I needed that I actually grew stronger without? Write it down. That's growth. That's wisdom. That's you. Letting go isn't weakness. It's the opening chapter of who you're becoming. Here's what really happens when you walk away from toxic people. Your nervous system heals, your confidence rises, your decisions align, your mind clears, your heart stops bleeding for people who never cared to stay. And slowly, you become you. The version you were always meant to be, not reactive, not controlled, but calm, centered, unshakable. That's Stoicism in action. If you made it this far, it means you're already on the path. Don't stop now. Tap into that silence. Let go of the guilt and walk, not away from people, but toward yourself. Subscribe to Deep Stoic Minds if this message speaks to you. Next chapter, we dive into how to rebuild from this place of stillness, how to create not just a quiet life, but a powerful one. Stick around. Your future self is already waiting. Rebuilding after chaos. Creating a life that reflects peace. You can't heal in the same place you broke, but once you walk away, what comes next? Welcome back to Deep Stoic Minds, where clarity meets calm and wisdom becomes your daily weapon. In the last chapter, we talked about what happens when you remove toxic people from your life. The peace, the clarity, the discomfort, the growth. But now it's time for the real work. Rebuilding. Not just surviving, not just getting by, but intentionally creating a life that reflects peace, strength, and purpose. This chapter is your guide to rebuilding your world after the storm, one that doesn't just look calm on the outside, but feels steady on the inside. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. If you're ready to design a life that reflects you, not your trauma, not your past, but your potential, then stay to the end. It's about to get real. From chaos to stillness. The shift that changes everything. After you walk away from chaos, there's a moment where everything feels still, too still. You've spent so long responding to drama, pressure, manipulation, that when it's finally gone, you feel empty, not free. That's normal. But what comes next is up to you. You can go back to what hurt you. Stay frozen in fear, or rebuild with intention. Stoicism teaches us that peace isn't just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. And clarity begins with asking, what kind of life do I want to wake up to every day? Now is your chance to build that. Rebuilding your inner foundation. Let's be real. Rebuilding isn't about moving into a new apartment, changing your number, or switching cities. Those are external resets. The real rebuild starts inside. Here's how. 1. Rediscover your identity. You've been shaped by your environment, maybe even erased by it. Now is the time to ask, who am I without the noise? What do I believe? What kind of energy do I want to give off? Start journaling, not to vent, but to reveal. Start showing up for yourself the way others didn't. Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So start choosing new colors. Audit your habits. You can't rebuild peace with chaos in your daily routine. Look at your sleep schedule, phone usage, diet, movement, content consumption circle of influence. Replace distractions with discipline, not for productivity, but for stability. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Let me ask you this. What would your life look like if it reflected your values, not your wounds? Most people design lives out of defense, to prove someone wrong, to get back at an ex, to earn love they never received. That's not peace, that's performance. Stay for the second half of this chapter. We're going to build something better, a life that honors your energy, a space that holds your calm, a mindset that no one can shake. Don't click away. This is where things shift. Design a life that holds your peace. Once you've rebuilt the inner foundation, it's time to design your outer life to match. This means removing friction from your environment and making peace practical. Here's how. 1. Simplify your surroundings. Clutter in your space. Clutter in your mind. You don't need a Pinterest home. But you do need a space that feels safe, feels clean, feels like you. Make your room a sanctuary, light candles, add warm lighting. Keep it quiet or add calming sounds. Every time you walk in, you should feel your nervous system say, I'm home. Redesign your relationships. Your old self tolerated anyone, your new self choosy. Ask yourself, does this person drain me or fuel me? Do I leave them feeling anxious or inspired? Can I be myself around them? And if the answer's no, you already know what to do. As Epictetus said, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Establish rituals, not routines. Habits are great, but rituals are sacred. Create daily anchors that ground you. Morning journaling, evening walks, stretching with music, drinking tea without your phone, writing one Stoic quote a day and reflecting on it. These aren't chores, these are rituals of rebuilding. Build an inner fortress. Now let's talk mindset. You can have a clean home, healthy routines, and supportive people, but if your mind is still chaotic, it'll all crumble. Here's how to build an unshakable mindset. Respond, don't react. This is Stoicism 101. When something triggers you, pause. Ask, is this in my control? Is this worth my peace? What's the wise response? Don't let people drag you back into old habits with new words. Keep your power. Protect your peace like property. Peace isn't just a vibe, it's a boundary. You need to say no unapologetically. Walk away when necessary. Log off when it gets loud. Rest when you're tired. As Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." It takes bravery to protect peace in a loud world. Deep Stoic Minds, journal. Prompt, tonight, write down, what does a peaceful life look like? And what's one step I can take toward it this week? Not 10 steps, not a whole blueprint, just one. Peace is built one decision at a time. In summary, rebuilding after chaos isn't about changing everything at once. It's about returning to your core, removing distractions, adding intention, and letting go of guilt. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to survive anymore. Now, you build, not for anyone else, but for you. You're no longer chasing peace, you're becoming it. If you felt this chapter, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Deep Stoic Minds. Comment the word rebuild below to let us know you're walking this path. Share this with someone who's starting over. In the next chapter, we're going even deeper, how to protect your growth. When life tries to pull you back. Until then, own your peace, guard your calm, and keep building. You're doing better than you think. Stay stoic, stay solid. How to protect your growth. When life tries to pull you back. Growth is hard, but keeping it, that's where the real fight begins. Welcome back to Deep Stoic Minds, where we don't just talk about change, we live it. This is the final chapter in our series about staying away from toxic people and focusing on your growth. And honestly, this one's the most important, because you've done the hard work. You've walked away from the chaos. You've reclaimed your peace. You've started rebuilding something real. But now, the past comes knocking. Old habits, old people, old situations. And they don't come back to say sorry. They come back to test you. So this chapter is about how to hold the line, how to not fold when life pushes, how to stay strong when familiar chaos tries to slide back into your peace. If you've grown even a little through this series, hit that subscribe button and comment Stoic Strong to lock it in. This chapter might be the one that saves your progress when everything starts to pull you back. When people come back, let's start with the obvious. After you've distanced yourself from toxic people, they will try to come back. Not always out of love, sometimes out of control, sometimes out of boredom, sometimes just to see if the door's still open. Here's the thing, they don't come back because you've changed. They come back because they haven't. Stoic reflection. Epictetus once said, when someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval. If they haven't changed their mindset, don't expect a new relationship. You've evolved. They've remained. Don't let nostalgia talk you out of your peace. Strategy. Guard the door. Don't explain your distance. Don't defend your growth. Don't feel guilty about peace. You're not rude, you're healed. Every time you re-engage with a toxic person, you're telling yourself, my peace is negotiable. Don't negotiate it. Protect it. When old habits return, let's be honest, growth isn't linear. You've been disciplined, calm, grounded. But then one bad day hits, and boom, you're scrolling too much, skipping rituals, ignoring your instincts. That doesn't make you a failure, it makes you human. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca, you're not broken, you're just drifting. And every time you catch yourself, you come back stronger. Strategy. Re-anchor with rituals. When life tries to pull you back, return to the basics, journal through the resistance. Meditate through the noise. Reread the quotes that saved you. Growth isn't about being unshakable. It's about knowing how to recenter fast. Let's pause here. Right now, someone out there wants to pull you back into your old self because it makes them comfortable, but you didn't come this far to stay the same. Comment "not going back" below if you're holding the line. We're about to talk about the silent assassins of growth, comfort, loneliness, and the pressure to make peace with what you walked away from. Stay to the end. This part hits different. The trap of comfort. Comfort is a slow killer. After the chaos fades and the peace sets in, a strange voice creeps in. Maybe I overreacted. They weren't that bad. I kinda miss how things used to be. That's not clarity. That's withdrawal. You're detoxing from dysfunction. Your body is used to adrenaline, noise, drama. So peace feels boring, but boring doesn't mean wrong. Boring means safe. It means stable. It means healed. Rewire your reward system. Start praising yourself for going a full day without overthinking, saying no without guilt, resting without apology, protecting your energy. Celebrate the calm, reward the stillness. And remind yourself, this peace is what I fought for. Loneliness versus solitude. Here's a tough one. Sometimes toxic people were our only company, and when they're gone, we feel alone, even if we're better off. Stoicism doesn't lie to you. It won't say you won't feel lonely, but it will say a man who has set his mind on the right course is never truly alone. Marcus Aurelius. Because solitude is where your real self comes to life. Strategy. Fill the gap with purpose. Use that empty space for creativity, learning, self-reflection, deep rest, serving others. Don't try to replace the people you left behind. Try to become the person you've always needed. The pressure to be nice. Let's be honest, one of the biggest pullbacks comes from guilt. You feel bad for setting boundaries, for cutting someone off, for walking away from family, friends, even relationships. But kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal. You're not being mean, you're being honest. And as Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. People might not understand your healing, that's fine, it's not for them. Define your new values. Let go of the need to explain. Instead, live your boundaries through your energy. Write down 3 things you will no longer tolerate. 3 non-negotiable daily habits. 3 people who reflect your values. Then build a world around that list. Final reminder, you are the gatekeeper. You don't have to announce your growth, you just have to guard it. The past will test you. Loneliness will tempt you. Guilt will chase you. Comfort will whisper. But you're built different now. You've got stillness. You've got clarity. You've got control. You're no longer fighting to survive. You're protecting what you already became. Deep Stoic Minds Journal. Prompt. Tonight ask yourself, what tries to pull me back? And what boundaries will I set to protect the person I've become? Write it, commit to it, and read it every time you start to slip. You've come a long way through this video series, from identifying toxic people to walking away to rebuilding and now guarding your peace. Let's recap. Old people will return. Close the door with love, but firmness. Old habits will creep back. Re-anchor in your rituals, comfort will lie to you. Remember what chaos felt like. Loneliness isn't punishment. It's the path to wholeness. Guilt is natural, but peace is worth the discomfort. You made it to the end of this series, and that says a lot about you. Subscribe to Deep Stoic Minds if you're serious about living with purpose, peace, and power. Comment Stoic Guardian below so we know you're holding the line. Share this series with someone you care about, especially if they're struggling to let go. This may be the end of the series, but it's the start of your new chapter. No more surviving. Now, you lead. Until next time, stay grounded, stay calm, and remember, you don't just find peace, you become it. This is Deep Stoic Minds. See you on our next video.